What's up, everybody? Welcome on in to the Chokehold Hour. We're transitioning from one woman's main event to the next. Last weekend, we had Rose Namajunas. Thug Rose beat Tracy Cortez in the main event of UFC Denver. Now headlining this upcoming fight night for the UFC is Virna Jandiroba and Amanda Lemos in the strawweight division. Guys, this fight is an interesting one. I don't think it's going to be the most entertaining fight, because styles make fights, and Amanda Lemos is a patient fighter. She's a finisher who waits for the right moment and capitalizes on said moment. In her fight with Marina Rodriguez opened up just a little too much for 1 second. Lemos ended up finding the right hand. Rodriguez was hurt. Lemos capitalized, unloaded on Marina Rodriguez, and finished her up against the cage. Amanda Lemos, that's who she is. That's what she's built her brand on. Patience. And then when that patience pays off, she finishes her opponents. Virna Jandiroba is quite literally the opposite of that. She's forward pressure, in your face the whole time, fights behind her jab, and eventually when she sees that you are tired, feigning away, fading out, she shoots the double leg, she shoots the single, she goes for any sort of takedown, drags you to the canvas, and keeps you there. Virna Jandiroba is a wrestler. She likes to shoot takedowns and win fights on the ground. She usually wins fights by decisions. I don't think she has a finish since 2021. I can fact check that right now. Yeah, 2021, guys, was the last time she finished an opponent. It's now 2024. I'm willing to bet that doesn't change against Amanda Lemos, especially after what we saw when Amanda Lemos fought Wei Li. I mean, that was just ridiculous. Wei Li outstruck her by close to 200 strikes, I believe. It was something like 200-something strikes to 30. Wei Li dominated her. I could not believe Amanda Lemos made it out of that fight, and I couldn't believe that the ref that night let that fight go on as long as it did, and it ended up going all 5 rounds. So Amanda's real tough to finish and get out of the octagon. Virna is not a finisher, but she is a pressure fighter, and I think she has the style to beat Amanda Lemos. Because, again, she fights behind her jab, and she doesn't really give you many opportunities to catch her. I mean, if you're a patient fighter, you count on your opponent overextending, opening up, or doing something to give you an opportunity to counter. Virna doesn't really do that. Like I said, fights behind the jab, moves forward, shoots double legs, does her thing, and wrestles you to a decision. Now, the one thing that's interesting about this fight is that Amanda Lemos is the only one of the two with 5-round experience. Now, in that 5-round experience, she got whooped by Wei Li. Whooped. It was one of the most one-sided fights in MMA ever. You just don't see a stat line like that really at any point in the UFC's history other than a few one-off rare cases like Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar. I mean, there's very few beatings like the one that Wei Li put on Amanda, but Amanda has the 5-round experience now. She did not go away in that fight. She stayed in it for all 25 minutes. It wasn't competitive by any means, but she stayed in the fight. Virna doesn't have 5-round experience, and although her style is successful against people like Amanda Lemos, look what she did to Marina Rodriguez. Just wrestled her, stuck behind the jab, forward pressure, did her thing, got the win. That works for 15 minutes. Can it work for 25? I'm not so sure. Honestly, I'm leaning towards Virna Jandiroba to win this fight. I am. I think that it will be tough for Amanda Lemos to find that opening. Amanda already got her title shot. She lost. Virna has not fought at that level of the division yet, and she wants to get there. Hunger plays a factor in this sport. I mean, look at Conor McGregor. Young Conor McGregor. Hungry Conor McGregor. He is probably the only fighter in the history of the UFC, at least, within that specific company, to have a run like Alex Pereira's, knocking out guys every 2 to 3 months until he got to the top of the sport. Young and hungry Conor McGregor mopped the floor with Eddie Alvarez. He slept Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. It's the fastest knockout in a title fight ever to this day. Now Conor's pulling out of fights due to broken toes. I'm not saying Amanda's at that point in her career because she doesn't have the money Conor has. She doesn't have the fame Conor has. She's not Conor. But she fought for a title. She lost. She's trying to resurge her career and push herself back towards the title picture. Virna never got there. She still has that initial fire, the initial flame burning to try and get to title contention in the strawweight division. And I think she can get there with a win over Amanda Lemos. Now, if it's a very boring win over the course of 25 minutes, she probably isn't getting a title shot next, because that's not what Dana likes. That's not what the fans like. You got to do something to appease the people who view the sport if you want to be considered one of the best in the sport. Virna hasn't really done that yet. So my first question, like I said, can her forward pressure wrestling style translate from a 15-minute fight to a 25-minute fight? We haven't really seen her gas too heavily in any of her bouts thus far in the UFC, so I'm not as worried about that as I am if she does translate her game to a 20-minute fight. What's it going to look like? Is it just going to be a Bilal Muhammad-esque style towards the, middle part of his career where he was literally just laying on guys till he got the win? Some of those were 15-minute fights, don't get me wrong, but look at Bilal now. It took him so long to get a title shot. He had to win double-digit fights in a row. I think it was 12 before his name was even thrown in the picture. That's because people just, I have nothing against Bilal Muhammad. People just don't like to watch him fight because he's not the most entertaining fighter. Virna's not the most entertaining fighter. So she needs to do something to make herself stand out in some sort of way in this fight against Amanda to propel herself to the strawweight title picture. If she's going to stick with her style of fighting behind the jab, shooting for those takedowns and wrestling, she needs a finish on the ground. She needs to just unload on Amanda and just throw elbow after elbow and then punch after punch until she can get her out of there. Otherwise, she's just going to stay known as a grappler who is okay with just winning decision after decision after decision. Guys, in this sport, it's proven time and time again, people like finishers. Alex Pereira quickly rose to the top of the sport because he is a killer. He's a finisher. Obviously, Virna will never be Alex. But John Jones, he's a killer, a finisher. At the prime of John Jones' career, he's not just a striker. John Jones, his specialty came in grappling, but he was still a killer. Look at what he did to Lyoto Machida. It's the most iconic submission in the history of the sport, arguably. Virna has to do something iconic if she wants that title shot, and I'm not sure if she's going to be able to do something iconic. I think it's going to turn into one of those slower-paced 5-round fights where Virna just eventually breaks Amanda's will, continuously shoots for takedowns, drags Amanda to deep waters, and keeps her there. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to find the finish, but what I do think is that Virna Jandiroba is going to use Amanda Lemos' patient style against her and just come forward aggressively for the whole fight and coast her way to a 25-minute decision.